So thank you for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here. I will talk today about the e-voting solution we developed in Geneva. It was developed from 2001 till 2019. We've stopped our project due to difficulties and budget difficulties. And first of all, I will talk a little bit about the Swiss political system and the e-voting in Switzerland, then describe the projects we run and the future, since in 2026 we might restart e-voting in Geneva. The Swiss political system is a federal one. We are a small country, as big as Estonia. We have 8.7 million inhabitants, so a lot more inhabitants, but we have 5.5 million people who can vote at the federal level. At the municipal level, there's even more. And we have three levels. The federal level, the states, 26 states, 26 cantons, as we call it, and 26 political systems, because the political rights are shared between the federal system and the cantons are writing most of the law. So if you develop an e-voting solution for Geneva, it might not work for another cantons. That was one of the difficulties we got. And cantons are responsible for organizing the referendums and the elections. It's a semi-direct democracy. It means that people can launch initiative or make referendum, and we vote quite often, 4 to 5 times a year. We have between 1 and 15 referendums or initiatives to vote on every time. So it needs to be easy for people to vote. The participation rate is not that high. It's 42.5 average all over Switzerland. In Geneva, it might be even lower. But what we found out is that people vote at least once every 5 years in Geneva. So we are quite happy with this. People vote a lot and vote by mail. Every time we have a referendum, an election, we got a small envelope like this with all the voting material, a voting card, explanation, the paper ballot, everything you need to vote, and you can easily vote by mail. 95% of the people nowadays vote by mail. Only 5% and even less go to polling station. They are open only on Sunday morning, and every canton can set the opening hours. In some cantons, they open only 15 minutes in the morning, on Sunday morning. And when we had online voting in Geneva, we had 22% of the people using it. E-voting in Switzerland, it's a web-based solution. We thought it would be easier to adapt for the user to use their own browsers. We have now the end-to-end verifiable solution with the end-to-end encryption too, which is quite new for us. It started only in 2023. We choose to have return codes to verify that the vote was casted as intended, and I will show you later what it means to get return codes. And we have 4 control components to record all the votes, and the Federal Chancellery wants us to have not all the control components at the same place. For the moment, they are all run by the Swiss Post, but they want that some cantons take 1 or 2 control components. We have some limits in this usage of the e-voting. Only 30% of the people voting in one canton can use online voting, and at the federal level, it could be only 10%. So it means first in, first served. And when we'll reach the 10% of the Swiss people, we'll see what's happened. In these quotas of people, the Swiss people living abroad are not counted, and people with disabilities won't be counted. The problem is to define what type of disabilities allows you to vote online, because in the law it's written only people who cannot vote manually can apply to get voting online. So we still need to define this, and again, it's the cantons who has to be defining this, so it will be different from one canton to the other. The CH Vote project It's a 18 years long journey. My first job was to develop the solution. I was more in the front end, but I also developed some part of the back end of the first version in 2003. In 2001, the federal government and 3 cantons get together, as we usually do in Switzerland, discuss a lot, and found out that we could maybe improve the democracy by starting new project to vote online. There were 3 cantons. Zurich, the blue one, is one of the biggest cantons. They tried to develop a solution. They were using a private entity to develop it. It's called Unisys. It's a software developing company. And they didn't really manage to finish the project. It was taken back by other cantons. But in Zurich, the first problem was to get a role of all electors centralized, because it was done at the municipal level, and people there, in some municipalities, they were recording the people only in Excel spreadsheets, so it made it difficult to go from one Excel spreadsheet at the end to an e-voting solution. The other cantons who started also to develop e-voting was Neuchâtel. It's another French-speaking canton, and they chose to use the CITEL solution and to integrate it in the e-government platform. That was their choice. And Geneva, with CHVote solution, we decided to develop our own solution and to develop it step by step. We ran the first referendum in a small municipality called Asnières. It was in January 2003. And it was a big step in the project, because after 2 years, we already managed to do it. It's the design we used at the beginning of the project, but I haven't found a print screen of the first referendum. We weren't good at keeping records of what he did at that time, but I found the same layout. On this solution, people, when they wanted to confirm their vote, they were seeing these small images, and there was a return code which was printed on the voting card, and only the server and you knew this code, which was done to prove that you were on the right server, because the main threat at that time for us was a man-in-the-middle attack. So we designed this image. It was dynamically generated on the server with the return code and the answer you chose and the ID of the question. 2001, 2003, we went talking already of CAPTCHA, but soon it will arrive on the market, and they developed robots to break the CAPTCHA, so it means it wasn't as secure as we thought at the beginning. So we would have to find a new solution to securize this step. Also, to authentify, you got a small password to set. It was behind this scratching zone, and to give your birth date and the place of origin. It's not your birthplate. In Switzerland, you are not registered as born in one place, but where your father or your grandfather was born. So it's quite difficult to find out where the people is from, because you might be living in Geneva, but from totally across Switzerland, because your grandparents were Swiss-German. We had also problems with this, because municipalities are getting too small to survive nowadays, and they were merging, and people didn't know how to find the new name of the municipality. For example, in one canton, Glaris, they had 40 different municipalities, and I think it was in 2012, they merged, and there were only, at the end, 3 municipalities. So it was a problem for people. We had to remove this question at the end. 2009, Geneva decided to add to its constitution the e-voting channel. It was a really important step for us, because we had done several tests, and we wanted to add it to the law, because in Geneva and in Switzerland, you can run tests without to have a legal basis to do it. So there weren't any legal basis, but after several tests, we wanted to add it. And we had to stop the project during 2 years, because there was a huge political debate in the parliament. It took them 2 years to decide if we could do it or not. So during 2 years, we didn't do anything about e-voting, but the people approved by more than 70% to have e-voting in their constitution. That was a huge success. This didn't mean that the 70% wanted to vote online, but they said it's okay, it's safe enough. During these 2 years, we tried to improve our solution, and we developed what we called a crypto channel. It wasn't the best choice when you are now, because it was a Java applet. This Java applet was running on the client side, on the browser of the user, and was encrypting all the data from the browser to the server, and the server was decrypting it to understand what you wanted to do and to generate the code. Two problems with this Java applet. The first one, it was Java. In 2007, they started they launched the first iPhone, and it wasn't running on iPhone, so it wouldn't work on mobile phones. And people want to vote, and they want it to vote fast. Because if you have to start your computer, at that time it was taking several minutes. We didn't have a fast processor, but also slow hard disk. Then you had to update Java because you never had the right version. And if you were a Mac user, Mac didn't use anymore the Java Oracle version, so you had to install another version. It was really a nightmare. The other problems we had is that we were using an encryption level that was higher than what most of the countries agreed to be using it. It was considered as armament, and we fall under the Wassenaar arrangement, so we had to block internet voting to only 110 countries in the world, because, for example, if you were using our solution in Singapore, you would get the death penalty. That was a big problem for us. Another thing, as told you, we are 26 states, but to run such a solution, it costs a lot, so we decided to open for hosting other cantons. We started with Bern and Lucerne, and we had to adapt our system to host 2 other cantons to new laws. 2011, we ran the first election. The person from Latvia said it was difficult to vote. In Switzerland, it's even worse. In Geneva, you can write your own list of candidates, up to 100 names. So either you can remove name, you can add name for other lists, and you can also take a blank paper ballot and write 100 names on it. So we had to reproduce the same thing on the internet voting, so people could add, remove, and even at the federal level, you can cumulate people. You can put them twice because you really like them. So we managed to do it, and it was the first success. In 2015, we found finally the solution to replace the small images. It was the individual verifiability with return codes. So people were getting on their voting material the codes they had to check if they vote yes or no, and it should be matching the answer they did. But for example, for election, you get a small leaflet with 32 pages of code because we have many candidates, more than 1,000, and many codes to check. That was a problem. So we ran user experience tests, and we had to improve the user interface, and we added this small yellow zone explaining people what the codes were for and where to find the information to verify. Also at the beginning, the confirmation code was at the bottom. You don't see it on the screen. And people never finished their vote, never casted their vote. So we had to move it back to the top. It's again the principle that people have to check what they've been voting, but it was the only way we found that people would finish their vote. 2016 was a big change for us. We decided to develop in Geneva our first end-to-end verifiable system. We started also to change mood. We were working on ourselves. It was a government-developed solution. All our IT was developed by the government. It started in the 60s, 1960, when the women started to vote in Geneva. We doubled the population to vote, and we decided to computerize all the process because we couldn't manage to get all the vote by mails as fast as possible recorded and tallied on the Sunday. So we have been developing many software since that time. But for the first time, we got an official big budget for e-voting, 6 million Swiss francs, and 3 years, because we wanted to have a new solution ready for the federal election in 2019. We also started to work with Swiss and European universities, and we made a call at a conference called eVote ID, and some people here in the room have answered this call and came to help us. We also decided to open source our source code so that people could look at it, and for us was a requirement in the Geneva's law, and it was only added 2 years later at the federal level, and it obliged our competitors, which was Swiss Post and Seitel at that time, to publish their source code. And it happened to the findings in 2019 when they found that the implementation of the protocol wasn't as described in the documentation. So for us, it was good to have people look at our code because we are civil servants. We are not all the best cryptographer, and it's really difficult to hire a cryptographer to work for the government because we don't pay enough. They prefer to go to work for banks and other and private entities. But they are friendly and they want to help and they want to have a better system, so they really helped us. And we get directly return from people from the academics, but also people from other companies, from private entities to help us. It was really a good thing for us. As I told you, 2019, CHVote was the major system in Switzerland. We were hosting 600 cantons. And the Post and Seitel were having 3 cantons, but they found out the problems by Seitel, and we stopped. Geneva didn't stop because we had technical problems in our solution, but because we had technical problems to solve the end-to-end verifiability. As I also told you, in Switzerland, we have 26 political systems, and for example, in St. Gallen, it's one of the eastern cantons in Switzerland, they have what we call writings. You can put any names on the paper ballot. You can vote for your neighbor or for anyone, and there's one rules in the law of the federal level saying that you shouldn't record an invalid ballot electronically. So we never found a solution to verify that the vote was valid, to generate a code so that the people can verify that their vote was casted as intended, and to protect the data privacy. We've been thinking for solution, for example, to import all the citizens of the municipality so you can start typing the names, but then we would fall under the law for data protection. We have thought to write an alphabet so you can encode all the letters and get return codes, but already we had 32 pages. Then we'll need a really big book to get all the codes. Another problem we had, it was in another Swiss-German canton, is binded election. You elect 5% at the executive level, and from those 5%, on another ballot, you choose the president. The system doesn't know who you have been choosing in the 5 first person, but he has to verify that the one you selected as president was in the 5 without breaking the secrecy and without knowing what was inside the paper ballot. And we had 13 issues like this we couldn't solve. So we wanted, for the first time, that the cantons pay for the development. From the beginning, Geneva has been paying for all the developments of the system, and the cantons were just paying for running the system. And they refused to invest more in this project. They refused also to take some responsibilities. For example, for the components, as I told you before, the Federal Chancellery wanted that other cantons took it, because in most of the other cantons, it's not, the political rights are not managed at the cantonal level, but at the municipal level. So they need to fund the budget within all the municipalities of the cantons. They need to find people who can manage it in the municipalities. It was too difficult for them, so we decided to stop our project. What we learn. As a government, the security is our priority. To ensure the security of the e-voting process is the most important thing, and we've learned how to improve, as one of the Swiss presidents said once, as slowly as possible, but as fast as necessary, the solution. And we tried to improve every 2 years. We had a new release with new security. We had to adapt every time that we've new fundings, and to have the best solution ever. But it's really difficult to go from zero to the top solution directly. You need to improve it. For the citizens, it's the simplicity and the accessibility of the solution, which is more important. When they vote, they want to vote, and they want to have a user-friendly solution. We have run many tests on return codes. They never understood what they meant for. They thought it was encryption of the vote. They gave many answers, but never understood what it was for. So for us, it was really difficult to make people verify their vote and to understand what it is for. They just want to vote and they trust it. In Switzerland, we don't have coercion problems. That's why we vote a lot by mail. There's no problem of trust in the voting by mail, so it's really easy to either on referendum take yes or no, and it's over. If you need to do extra steps for voting online, you won't have people using it. And what we learn also is that transparency and inclusion is really important. Working with universities really helped us to get all the people discussing about the project. All the opponents also came, discussed, gave their point of view, and we could improve the solution and explain it how it works. Because in the mind of the people, what we realized that they think it's really complicated, that we are doing stuff that they don't know, and it's quite easy. I don't say the cryptography part, but the process is quite easy, and you can understand it. So that was the 3 takeaways from our project. What's for the future? In 2023, the Swiss Post has been redesigning, rewriting its own solution. They don't use anymore the CITL code. They have developed their own code. And 3 cantons started in June 2023. Baselstadt, Thurgau, and St. Gallen. And this year, Graubünden, the biggest one on the bottom right, started to use e-voting. And we had the next one in the process. We'll be joining the Swiss Post solution in 2026, in June 2026. We are just waiting the budget from the Parliament. It should be arriving before the end of the week because they have the session this week. And the Commission gave already their agreement, and normally the Parliament will also give their agreement. So we'll start the project as soon as possible from next week. We have 6 to 9 months to adapt our system to the Swiss Post because we want to interface all the system. We want still to keep the vote by mail, and we have already a whole process for it. And then we have 1-year audits run by the Federal Chancellery and the external auditors, and then we can use it. I thank you for your attention, and I think there's also time for questions.
Thank you so much. Great story. There was a happy ending. That's happy ending.
There's hope.
There is hope. A new hope. Who has the first question? Ahto, I'm looking at you. No? Yes, you can. You just raise your hand and then you can ask.
Yes, thank you, Olivier. Your journey is a great inspiration to us in Estonia here. I wanted to ask about the end-to-end verifiability. The term has passed your presentation a couple of times. What's your definition of end-to-end verifiability? So there are several possible definitions to it. So does it mean that everybody can check that their vote was tallied in the final, or
no?
Okay.
It's not everyone. No, there's the end-to-end verifiability system is a process that we get a verifier solution at the end. It will check all the mathematical proofs that all the votes were casted as intended, as they received it. Then depending on the contents, in Geneva, we publish a kind of bulletin board where you can find back your paper ballot. And because people want to make statistics, how many people said yes to this referendum and no to this one. And so it's really important. But only Geneva is doing this. So that's where you can find out if your vote was casted and tallied as intended. But maybe several people have voted the same as you, so you never know.
So the new Swiss Post solution in St. Gallen, and they are handling all these new interesting cases with the top 5, and who's the...
No, they don't have the top 5 because it was Argao. They have the writings, and they accept that it's invalid for the moment.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
They didn't find a better solution than ours. They get one code for all the free position, and you can put anything in it.
But there has been no discussion to, I even dare not say this, change these rules so that they would be easier to implement in code.
They'd love to, but the power is in the municipalities, and the problem is to find people to be elected in small municipalities. So in some places, they don't have enough candidates, so the only way to find someone is like this.
Very clever.
Or to merge municipalities.
More questions? Yo, Ahto is finally up to it.
I initially thought I understood it, but now I doubt, so I better ask, what kind of risk is mitigated by those return codes? Is it trust in the communication channel, trust in the server?
It's both. It's trusting the communication, because if you don't get the right return code, it means that something happened on the channel. But the code is composed by the 4 control components. So if one of the control components is not working or has been corrupted, then the code won't match. You will get, there's 4 digits in the code, and 1 digit comes from each servers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Christian?
So earlier we had the discussion of how many auditors do we need in Estonia to audit the election results. So how do you audit the results? How many auditors do you use in Switzerland? Do you use also auditors from abroad? How does that work? That would be an interesting viewpoint.
Yeah, the auditors there are several auditors. There are different steps in the auditing. First of all, there's the auditing of the voting solution from the post. So they've been hiring auditors from all over the world. There are Australian, Canadian, Belgian people we meet usually in a voting conference. Then there are audits for the process, how we handle the software in the States. So this is mainly run by private entities in Switzerland who come to check how do we do it. And then there are security tests also, kind of pen tests, but private one on our system internally, done also by private entities selected by the Federal Chancellery. And in Geneva, we have the Central Electoral Commission also, who can audit all the process. The Central Election Commission is composed by 12 people designated by the Parliament. They are designated by all the parties who are sitting in the Parliament. And then there are 4 to 8 people designated by the executive government who are experts. So there are people who know cryptography, who knows the law, or knows usability also. They will do those type of tests. And every 3 years in Geneva, we have also to run audits. And the Parliament choose the subjects they want to audit, and then we have to find companies to audit our solution.
And let's have just one more question.
If I'm correct, you have several official languages in Switzerland.
Yes.
So does it have any influence or how significance for design of the system?
Yeah, we had to design a system which works in 4 languages. And we have to, one of the biggest problems is mainly in the Swiss-German part and the Romansh part, because they don't use the same words for the same thing. For example, a voting card has several names in all the states. In French, it's not the case, so it's easier in French. But for the Swiss-German, it was always difficult to find the right word to explain to people or to cast their vote, because the vocabulary is totally different from one canton to the other one.
Estonia really starts looking simple at this time already. Thank you very much, Olivier. Thank you for...
Thank you.
Thank you.